Welcome to the JCPS MTSS training on the Teacher Clarity Toolkit with a focus on the high yield practice, learning intentions, and success criteria with scaffolding. I am Sarah Adams, MTSS Engagement Resource Teacher with Elementary Zone 1.
I'm Kelly Hagan, MTSS Resource Teacher with Middle School Zone.
Take a moment and type in the case-sensitive bit.ly into your web browser. This will give you access to the presentation. These are the components of MTSS multi-tiered systems of support. As you can see, MTSS provides multiple levels of support for all learners and aligns resources and support with our District's 6 systems for students and for teachers who deliver and support instruction. MTSS addresses academic, social, emotional, and behavioral development. It focuses on overall school improvement that is sustainable. Let me start by showing you the components of our department. This concept map shows a visual of the departments within MTSS. The MTSS Academic Department provides teachers with Tier 2 and Tier 3 intervention and academic support. The supervisor and point of contact for this department is Donna Lawson. The MTSS Behavior Department supports schools in implementing school-wide behavior systems and frameworks, including PBIS and restorative practices. The supervisor and point of contact for this department is Sandra Hensel. The MTSS Re-Engagement Department supports students who are transitioning back to their home schools from Minor Daniels Academy and Breckenridge Metropolitan. The supervisor and point of contact for this department is Dr. Naomi Brahim. The goal of our department, the MTSS Engagement Department, is to increase student achievement by equipping teachers with high-yield pedagogical practices to maximize student engagement. The supervisor and point of contact for our department is also Dr. Naomi Brahim. 6 MTSS toolkits were created to provide resources for Tier 1 instructional practices to increase student engagement and reduce student behaviors. Here are the 6 MTSS toolkits.
According to John Hattie, author of Visible Learning, with an effect size of 0.75, teacher clarity is the incorporation of learning intentions and success criteria to describe where students are going in their learning, how they are progressing, and where they will go next. The Teacher Clarity Toolkit success criteria focuses on the design, alignment, communication, and revisiting of standards-based learning intentions and success criteria. The Teacher Clarity Toolkit provides the definitions of learning intentions and success criteria as shown here. You can see learning intentions describe what we want the students to be learning, while success criteria describe the evidence of learning. John Hattie also states that any tool, linguistic or conceptual, that can be used to bridge the gap for students can be considered a scaffold. He states that this engagement practice has an effect size of 0.82, making it a high yield practice for student learning. In order to accelerate learning and engage students in our lessons, we will learn how to use scaffolds to deconstruct learning intentions and success criteria. You, the learner, will be able to determine where scaffolds can be used when communicating learning intentions and success criteria with students. There are 4 components that must be integrated into every learning intention. Here you see a 4th grade math standard and sample learning intention. Learning intentions Learning intentions should specify what the students are supposed to learn, as well as be clear and focused on the outcome of the learning. In this example, the learning intention tells students they will be learning how to identify and draw lines and angles. Learning intentions should be a summary or general restatement of the standard. You can see in this example, the language used in the learning intention comes directly from the language of the standard. Learning intentions should be written in age-appropriate, kid-friendly language, but retain the rigor and intent of the standard. Here you can see the words identify, draw, lines, and angles were taken directly from the standard to compose the learning intention. By having all four of these components, a teacher sets the stage for what learning will occur within the lesson. Success criteria also has four components. In this secondary ELA example, you see the standard and possible learning intention. Effective success criteria provides a map to the learning destination. Sample success criteria are shown here. As you can see, there are multiple success criteria for a single learning intention because it is the evidence of the learning for the students. Success criteria describes the evidence students must produce to show they have achieved the learning intention. In this example, students are being asked to evaluate certain items of the learning intention. The success criteria identifies the details needed to achieve the learning intention. As you can see, the learning intention asks students to provide relevant and sufficient evidence to support a claim. The success criteria uses the same language to reflect the expectations of the learning intention, so students can understand what products they will need to produce to demonstrate their learning. Like the learning intention, success criteria must also retain the rigor and intent of the standard through use of specific terms taken directly from the standard. In this standard, the words evaluate, specific claims, relevancy, and sufficiency of evidence are used to develop the learning intention and success criteria to ensure students' products are reaching the level of the standard. By communicating the learning intention and success criteria to students, teachers are able to engage students in the learning for the day by setting the stage. By having the four components of the success criteria, students know the expectations of the products they will produce to demonstrate their learning of not only the learning intention, but the standard as well. There are several benefits for teachers and students in implementing learning intentions, success criteria, and scaffolding. The learning intentions set the learning stage for students by answering the questions of what are you learning, why are you learning it, and how do you know you're successful? These questions not only provide clarity for students, but allow for a supportive environment where the teacher becomes more of a mentor and facilitator rather than a content expert. By using scaffolding, students are able to engage with their content and accelerate beyond their current skills and knowledge levels. In this type of classroom environment, students are free to ask questions, elicit feedback, and support their peers. The teacher transitions to the role of mentor and facilitator of learning in order to engage students in meaningful discussions around the content. This allows the teacher to notice misconceptions easier and therefore can accelerate student learning through immediate Tier 2 interventions. There will be a video provided on the next slide. After watching the video, think about the following questions. How did the teacher scaffold the learning intention? What are the benefits of unpacking a learning intention as shown in this video?
We're really just at the tip of this iceberg for this expedition. We really just have a little bit of knowledge based on our own family's immigration stories. And as we get into our expedition, we'll get into two really chunky, long-term case studies. Please take a look at today's workshop target. Give me a thumb if you have a specific notice or a wonder based on just today's workshop target. Let's make sure we understand what this is all about. See, a lot of thumbs, a lot of things people are noticing, a lot of things people are wondering. Maddie, start us off. What do you see here?
We're gonna use some documents or some like text to notice some notices and wonders about case studies.
Yeah, we'll look at some different texts to create some notices and wonders. What else are you thinking about, Ben? What do you think we're going after here? What questions do you have about today's target?
My question is, what's a immigration case study?
I have that right here. Awesome. Great question, Ben. We'll come back to that in just a bit. Thanks. Andrew, something you're noticing or wondering?
We're gonna, adding on to Maddie's for the source documents, we're trying to find understanding and research.
Good. So specifically, we're trying to develop a bit of understanding today. It's just an introductory understanding, but probably what's even more important is our developing some research questions that will help shape the rest of our investigation, the rest of this expedition in a way. Chase, what else are you seeing or wondering? Good. Give me a pinky. You can hold that pinky way down low if you're like, I have no idea about primary research documents or research documents. Maybe up here if you're like, I have some sense of what those may be. And hold that pinky up high if you're like, primary research documents? Man, it's like I've been working with them since I was born. You know many things about what those are. So I see a real mix within the crew. I'm going to ask you just to take about 10 seconds and as a table group now, share your understanding. What do we mean by primary resource documents?
Primary resource would be like someone wrote something, or primary then wrote a letter written by someone. Real thing is not
I love it. Where are we right now with our understanding of primary resource documents? You might even discuss it, how it's different from secondary, if you're able to speak to that. Kilauea, start us off.
Like the primary document stuff was like the real stuff, I guess, like real information. Like,
can you say a little bit more about what you mean by real?
Like things that have been like not copied and stuff.
So we can sort of say primary are real. Okay. Great. See, has something else to add?
Okay, so primary came from that specific person, and like secondary came from somebody else who was actually there to experience it or something. It was just like they know about it. Oh! So that's what usually secondary means.
Okay. If I went for a run this morning, I'm jogging and I see someone on my run and they're just singing these beautiful songs, right? And I write a newspaper article about it. Would you call that a primary or a secondary? Show me fingers. Primary or a secondary? I was right there. I saw it. I wrote a newspaper article about it. I see some mixed emotions. Okay, great. Let me ask you this question. If I was right there, I saw that person sing these beautiful songs when I was on my run, and then I told Devin about it. And then Devin wrote a letter to someone about it. Is Devin's letter primary or secondary compared to what I was able to say about it? I'm seeing almost unanimous now that Devin is that secondary source. Sid is getting us right on track, and I think Kilauea is as well. I'm going to ask you just to make a quick note in your expedition journals about this, because we'll come back to this information later. Maybe make a little T-chart, primary, secondary. Both Kilauea and Sienna are right. Primary are, in a way, almost more real. We'll say more about that in a second. Today, we're going to look at some primary source documents. And in fact, many of them are around you right now in the room. Give me a thumb if you could describe what kinds of primary source documents we're going to look at today. Audrey, what kind of primary source documents are we going to look at? We're going to look at photographs, most of them pictures. I should say we're going to get pictures, most of them photographs, but not all of them photographs. And as we look at these pictures and photographs, we're going to try to, just like the target says, develop some introductory understanding and some introductory research questions. I'd like to give you one quick example. We'll try one together, and then I'll set you loose on a bit of a gallery walk and check out these images.
Let's revisit the questions from before. Just take a moment, think about how the teacher used scaffolding within the learning intention and what the benefits are of starting a lesson in this way. Here you see the different ways the teacher used scaffolding through the learning intention. As a way to engage students in the lesson, the teacher initially tapped into prior knowledge by asking students what they noticed or wondered. By providing prompts and examples, the students' learning was accelerated since misconceptions were addressed immediately. The teacher was able to lower the cognitive load for the students by using the feedback from the students and provide them with prompts and examples while engaging with the learning intention.
Now we will look at how scaffolding can be used through success criteria. We are going to watch a kindergarten teacher and see how she engages students and helps them make progress towards the learning intentions with success criteria. As you watch the video, think about how the teacher scaffolds the success criteria and determine the benefits of unpacking success criteria as shown in the video.
So let's look at the expectations or criteria for success together. I use criteria for success with my students to help them know what the steps are in achieving our learning targets for a specific lesson. You guys help me remember what we need to do in our writing?
Yes.
All right.
I use kindergarten spelling.
In today's lesson, we had 6 criteria for success. The students were looking at each other's work and making their feedback correlate with the criteria for success. So this is Nathan's piece. Be looking not only for things he did really well, but also for the things that you want to suggest so he meets the criteria for success.
You did a good job on the picture, but you need a period. He did a good job on starting with an uppercase letter, and he needs to do lowercase letter.
Okay. I know that they know what the criteria for success is, and being able to find what's missing in their peers' writing helps me to know that they're going to be better at applying it in their own work as well. Eli, which side? This one? Today, the kids even brought up an additional strategy for remembering spaces between letters and words.
You need to work on having spaghetti space.
Using a spaghetti space between letters and a meatball space between the words.
This one.
Okay. All right, will you read it to us?
That man.
At the beginning of the school year, my students, for the most part, weren't reading. And so I added some visual cues to the criteria for success. And those images have sort of stayed with them. And I actually used photographs from our classroom and samples of student work. Also, I wanted to use the kind of language that the students use in class to talk about their work.
She made meatball space.
She did make meatball spaces. Certainly the spaghetti and meatballs is right out of their vocabulary. The Suggestions from your peers were that you need to use lowercase letters. This is really my first year with criteria for success. And I do see that being specific about what the expectations are, the students are able to do it. I think you're ready to do the illustration. Expecting them to do it without telling them what I was expecting did not work out nearly so well. I can't wait to see how this works out.
What types of scaffolds did the teacher use to help students understand the success criteria? Here are some ways the teacher used scaffolding through success criteria. The teacher looked at the expectations of success criteria together with the students. She broke down the steps to help the students understand how to achieve the learning intention. The teacher modeled success criteria and they looked at examples of success. The students provided feedback with one another and were also provided with visual cues and common language. Whether we are teaching in person or virtually, the communication of learning intentions and success criteria is imperative. We must communicate the what, why, and how of a lesson. Learning intentions and success criteria should be discussed at the beginning of every lesson and referred back to during the lesson, and then revisited at the end of the lesson. Instead of posting the learning intentions and success criteria on the chalkboard or wall, they could be posted on a slide deck or on chart paper in the background during a virtual lesson. There are some things to consider when planning scaffolds for instruction. Intentionality is important. Anticipate where students may get stuck and struggle. Over time, the goal is to fade out scaffolds so that the student gains the knowledge and can accelerate toward the next level of understanding. Here's a list of some types of scaffolding. You were able to see examples and visual scaffolds used in the kindergarten video. Prompts and examples were used in the middle school video. Prompts and cues can be used to aid in clarifying learning intentions and success criteria while allowing students to engage in productive struggle. Question stems can be used to help students practice critical thinking. Here are some additional types of scaffolding. The teachers in both of the videos allowed students time to talk about learning. Modeling was also used. Manipulatives and graphic organizers are scaffolds that can be used. Scaffolds will allow acceleration in student learning to occur. These types of scaffolding also create a culturally responsive classroom. In any classroom, the teacher should be aware of certain considerations regarding the environment or learning community that they are helping to create. Knowing the backgrounds or cultural norms for students within the classroom will lead to more engaging and effective instructional practice. This culturally responsive approach should be utilized to reach as many students as possible in the classroom. Teachers should communicate clear and specific expectations to students about what they are expected to know and be able to do. Modeling is another approach that could be beneficial to students. In classrooms where ECE students are present, some aspects of teacher clarity should be utilized more often in a classroom based upon the needs of the learners there. These supports should be used and monitored so that teachers can record progress of individualized learners. Teachers could use an instructional approach, such as explicit instruction, that involves continuous monitoring through formative assessment to determine the student's progress toward mastering the learning objective and then adjusting instruction. Teacher clarity directly relates to deeper learning or project-based learning projects. Clarity of intentions and success lead to more robust projects and greater understanding of content for students. Projects that help students collaborate, think critically, innovate, or become culturally competent can also be used for backpack artifacts. Teachers will want to ensure the clarity of learning intentions and success criteria by ensuring students have a clear understanding of the core learning intentions of the project and what success looks like in showing their understanding of the learning intention. Thank you for joining us to learn more about learning intentions and success criteria with scaffolding. For more information about the MTSS toolkits and other high yield practices, please visit our website.